chop all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night
vVv Gaming.
This best of 7 series, and DaiSuki will be going up against EGDeMusliM, which may turn out to be perhaps their greatest the most difficult player yet they've faced.
Yeah, I mean, taking down a machine is definitely a big achievement for DaiSuki, especially since we haven't seen him have too much success in Wednesday Night Starcraft. We'll go ahead and do the intros here. vVv DaiSuki spawning as the teal Zerg player in the eastern position, and then on the far side, EGDeMusliM, the anchor for Evil Geniuses, spawning as the blue Terran. And like I was saying, I think this will be DaiSuki's toughest matchup, a huge upset if he's able to take down DaiMusliM in this game here.
Yeah, definitely a huge upset, as DaiSuki, as you mentioned, hasn't had a lot of luck or success in Wednesday Night Starcraft. I think if you had to get your first victory and have it be against EG, that is always something to smile about with the rest of your team. We'll see what's going to happen here, as DaiMusliM is going to be doing the customary wall off here on Shattered Temple, and we'll see what exactly DaiMusliM tries to go for. You've said that you watched DaiMusliM stream. What's his basic strategy and style against Zerg?
You know, he's pretty defensive macro Terran player, which I think that the strongest Terran players are. They can kind of stay even in a macro game with a Zerg, and especially on this this map we've talked about before in this matchup, it can be very hard to get a quick third as a Zerg. You either have to expose yourself out by the gold, and even that takes a lot of units to take down the rocks, or you have to take down the rocks at your back door there and take that sort of natural third, and it can be very difficult, sort of like Antigua, where we saw Murder controlling the third timing and the creep with those Hellions, but you don't even need Hellions because you have destructible rocks here as a Terran player. So a lot of times we see sort of 2-base tech style by DaiSuki and other Zerg players that either comes in the flavor of 2-base Muta, not very strong, or more of the Ling upgrades with that early 1-1 and then pushing out and trying to take a third and sometimes a quick fourth as well.
All right, right now we're going to see DaiSuki scour across the map. He is going to perhaps be able to make his way up with the drone. It doesn't look like the supply depot will be up in time, and he is going to see a late gas. All right, so I'm not 100% sure why. I believe this gas was just established moments ago. Normally, you would already be mining from it, as the drone is going to come around, perhaps trying to figure out what the overall strategy is. And I'm a little puzzled and confused. What would you make of a late gas, not your standard 13 gas, against a Terran player?
I'm not sure. Maybe he's going to be faking the reactor Hellion, though he did let the drone in to see that gas. Right now he has just created, actually he's got a number of Marines queued up, a third one queued up, so he's going to take down that drone, and I think we will have a low ground expansion, so that gas might be used for an early tech lab to try to get some early tech going. I think DaiMusliM does like Combat Shield as an early upgrade on those Marines. It really helps with early pressure to survive any sort of all-ins when Stim doesn't help you as much, and DaiMusliM might be putting on a pressure here with a bunker. He does have an SCV across the way and Marines at the center of the map.
All right, we'll see what's going to be coming up next. 4 Zerglings are out in the field. We do have the factory now being established, so perhaps it is that reactor Hellion opening a little bit later, and perhaps it's one of those things where you just try to mess up your opponent's timing. DaiMusliM does have 1 SCV. Queen is in position. The Marines are just going to simply walk up the ramp here, and the Marine can't really do much, and an Overlord of DaiSuki may get taken out, and that would be really, really detrimental, as the Overlord down to 28 hit points, down to 11. It does get taken out, as the drones are now trying to take down and finish off the Marines here. It looks like Marines will get taken out, and not sure what exactly DaiSuki was thinking. So far, 325 resources lost versus 200, and Zerglings only sitting at the destructible rocks.
Yeah, and four drones taken down there, or actually 3 taken down there for DaiMusliM. He took down 1 earlier, so a win by him. Anytime you can trade early Marines for drones, that's a great trade. DaiMusliM did go for that factory a little bit later, so went for the command center first and then the later factory. Still on just the 1 gas and adding that second and third racks at sort of the normal timing for this fast expand.
All right. Also, an interesting thing to note, the reactor is still on the barracks, double training Marines, and a Hellion will now be making its way out. There is one creep tumor here. There are Zerglings up on the ramp. The Zerglings are going to be able to perhaps try to take down that Hellion. The Hellions do move very quickly. There is a Roach there as well. The Roach does have a decent range now, as the Roach needs to hurry up and try to get back on creep. Hellion going to get some more damage from that Queen, but that Hellion getting in a lot of critical scouting information, and the Hellion still backing around and being very annoying.
Yeah, he certainly is. I'm not sure whether he saw whether a second gas was established. He knows that there's roaches out, so he might stop Hellion production. He still has one more on the way. We'll see whether he goes for some sort of timing here, a Marine Hellion, to try to take on the forces of DaiSuki. But if DaiSuki is able to scout that and just produces 5 or 6 roaches, it can really shut that down.
Yeah, I don't think that the Muslim's going to try to push out with this Marine Hellion. He sees, after losing that Zergling, that there are just a lot of Marines and Hellions, and he knows that his roaches should be able to handle that pretty easily. 7 drones now being trained, so we are going to be 32 or 39 to 30 workers in just a moment, but this is where Zerg tends to have problems on Shatter Temple, trying to find and establish that third base. Where can it be placed down? Spinecrawler going to be a little bit late here, as a one Roach just enough to push back the rest of those Hellions.
Yeah, it's interesting he's not using those roaches or the lings to take down one of these 2 rocks. Maybe he just wants them in position to try to catch any Hellions if they do make their way up the ramp. But we do have all the gas now being taken for DaiSuki, so he will be on 4 gas, and he's going to have Lair about to come out in a macro hatch. So we'll see what sort of tech he does go for. Without an evolution chamber, I imagine he's going to be going for fast Muta or Infestor. We'll have to see.
Yeah, well, my guess is with that macro hatch, he may be trying to go for perhaps heavy Roach Ling, perhaps the Glio Reconstitution. This would be a strategy that you mentioned earlier, off of that 2-base all-in, or not an all-in, but a little bit more of a 2-base strategy, which generally works out well on Shadow Temple when it's a little bit more difficult for Zerg to establish his third. There are a lot of Hellions in the center, but Roaches can take on a lot of Hellions and live to tell the tale. We'll see what DaiSuki researches after that layer is completed.
Yeah, interesting. He is adding the Baneling Nest, sort of a normal timing for that. You want to add it just as your lair starts, so you can get the speed up and sort of defend against any sort of push. The push from Terran is going to be a little bit delayed since he fast expanded, and DaiMusliM now actually going to be taking a third. So, like I said, DaiMusliM more of a macro Terran player. He's going to be macroing and perhaps even staying ahead of his Zerg opponent for the majority of these games. Right now, 91 against 67. So, DaiSuki not in a great place going for that Spire off 2 bases.
Yeah, the Spire off of 2 bases. We'll see. He knows that his opponent is very, very Marine heavy. I don't know if I agree with this. Trying to go that many Mutalisks when you know that your opponent has been training up Marines. You don't know if he's done a tech switch. He hasn't sacrificed an Overlord, which I thought he would have done already. And he doesn't have any map control or foresight. The starport is just about to be completed. It looks like the reactor, no reactor will be placed down, so it's only going to be 1 medevac as Zerglings now run back over. Banelings are ready to try to counter these Marines.
I think it's over right here, as DaiSuki had no scouting on this. He's going to have to morph in Banelings. He's going to have to get some great hits. We do have +1 for DaiMusliM already. He's got Combat Shield and Stim. Has to do a nice split here. The Banelings have to make contact. They've made decent contact so far, but just so many Marines left. DaiSuki doing his best to come out with Lings to try to pair up with those Banelings, but just a big ball of Marines and Hellions in front protecting against those Banelings, and I think this is going to be GG without a few great Baneling hits, and there they are, Banelings going onto those Marines, able to take them down, and now we have 72 to 55. I still think DaiMuslim's in a great position, did a lot of damage with that attack.
Yeah, DaiMusliM did exactly what he needed to do. DaiSuki is spewing creep at the third. That is very annoying, especially losing that many Marines. It will take a little bit of time to shoot down that Overlord and let that creep recede. And if he does see that the Marines are making their way off to the north, he could try to do a Zergling run by and do a Baneling bust on the front door, and that could get DaiSuki back into the game. And it looks like it may be exactly that, as the Marines are nope. We'll see what's going to happen here. We need to see only 2 Marines now making their way off to the north. And what is going to happen here, as we now see a Roach and Zerglings and Banelings going to try to just do this splash here, and in comes the Banelings.
Yeah, without Siege Tech, with just investing in all those Marines early on, it really leaves DaiMusliM susceptible to this sort of attack, and DaiSuki really taking advantage of a nice Siege Tank placement there on the ramp. He is going to take down that siege tank, but these Marines will be able to stim up and clean up these Lings, and we've got more and more Lings streaming across the field, but I think that's the wrong decision at this point. You sort of have to take your victory there and hopefully macro up. If you check the workers killed count, it's 25 to 4. Workers are 55 to 30, and I think DaiSuki's still in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, 55 to 30. You never want to be in that position. DaiMusliM, it looks like the creep will now recede. It didn't look like there was enough Zerglings to really finish it off. And now that DaiMusliM is going to have 1-1 upgrades on those Marines, and the Zerglings are going to be unupgraded, the Zerglings will be essentially dealing, with 20% less damage, while the Marines are dealing at 15% more damage per attack. So that is going to be very, very difficult for these Zerglings to even go up against these Marines, even in small numbers.
Yeah, and I have to feel like that Spire was really a mistake. Not a lot of damage. I mean, no damage was done. I don't even think a Muta has been made. And if he had gone for that more Evolution Chamber timing, where he would have had 1-1 to fend off against that Marine and Hellion sort of play, I feel like he could have defended it. We have a drop in the main now. Queen will be focused down. Again, this is a very dangerous double drop, and I'm not sure there are any Banelings. Just one on the field right now to try to defend this. DaiMusliM will be able to do some damage and then just pick up and go home if he feels unsafe.
All right, Baneling does find its target, and it looks like the Marines do finish it off. All the Marines are taken down at the cost of 1 layer, and we'll see what's going to happen here. It doesn't look like the Glio reconstitution was started. The Baneling movement speed was upgraded. Harvester count now 49 to 66, but a large, 51 to 67 now, so trying to catch up there, but DaiMusliM on 3 bases, while DaiSuki's only now establishing his gold.
Yeah, he's doing his best to get on that goal, and it's something he really needs, especially if he swaps over to this this more Ling-centric style with these upgrades. 1-1, about 3/4 of the way done, but he really needs good scouting information. He has to know when this next push is coming. It's coming right now. DaiMusliM does not have siege tech, actually, but he has finished 1-1, and he's got stim and combat shield, so still a pretty scary push here.
We'll see how much damage is going to be dealt. It looks like the Evolution Chambers need about another 20 more seconds for the 1-1 upgrades on those Zerglings and Banelings. The siege tanks are going to be able to clean up this hatchery, force a cancellation, perhaps a drop. No, a drop now coming in from DaiMusliM, so DaiMusliM knows how much in the lead he is in, knowing that there is not a base on the bottom right-hand side, and DaiSuki says GG.
Yeah, pretty bad engage there for DaiSuki. Wasted a lot of Banelings. A few of them hit on tanks as well. Even though there was no siege tech, the tanks did tank the Baneling damage. So, I mean, that was just a strong timing push there by DaiMusliM with the +1 combat shield and stim Marines, along with a few Hellions to tank a little bit of Baneling damage. And DaiSuki, like you said, had no map control. He didn't have a Ling right outside DaiMuslim's base, didn't have that center tower, so he wasn't able to react quickly enough. And if the Terran player is in your natural, any amount of Lings which come out, just not able to defend there unless you've got 4 or 5 bases, or way more bases in production than the Terran player.